Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cheat Codes. I'm your host, TaSh, and it is awesome to have you tuning in again. I've been with Women in Games International since 2022, and it's been a wild ride. It actually feels like I've been here for 3 dog years with everything that's been happening in the gaming industry lately. We've seen some amazing progress, but it's also been a tough road for many of us. But here's the exciting part. We're still here, and we're stronger than ever. And we're ready to take on whatever challenges and opportunities come our way. We're standing at the forefront of a new year with so many possibilities in front of us, a mission to fulfill, and a reason to celebrate. Speaking of celebrations, this year marks WIGI's 20th anniversary. 2 decades of empowering women in games. Now that's something to shout about. So, in this episode, we're going to take a trip down memory lane, revisit some of WIGI's biggest wins, and talk about what we have in store for the future. With me today for the podcast, I have the myth, the legend, Joanie, the CEO of WIGI, my mentor, even though it's unofficial, and someone I admire greatly. I am absolutely privileged to have Joanie as a guest on the podcast for January. So welcome to Cheat Codes, Joanie.
Thank you so much. Long-time listener.
I've been dying to say that. I miss calling in radio station. So Joanie, what would you like our Cheat Codes listeners to know about you?
Oh, okay. Well, I started in the games industry in 2010 on accident. I actually started in finance and accounting and doing audit prep and helping with system migrations and kind of moving around accounting systems. I was working at Motorola, and there were a couple guys that were talking about esports, just like whatever that means. And they introduced me to esports, and it was incredible. It was this really, the idea of playing video games for a living was just, I was hooked. I was excited. I started working at SteelSeries pretty soon after. They make gaming peripherals to support pro players and win everything because they're awesome. And so it was, mice, headsets, keyboards, eye tracking systems. And I was working there and I loved the culture. I loved the work hard, play hard. I was in tech and then gaming. It wasn't the best culture and environment. And so I actually even tried to switch back over to a different, industry. I went into agriculture for a little while and I knew that I kept getting drawn back. I knew I wanted to be in tech and gaming. And so I moved back into more of a tech role. And when I found WIGI, it was just sort of that thing that you kind of go, if I had this sooner, I think my career trajectory would have been completely different. I think a lot of things would have been approached in a different way. I remember asking a leader at a prior role, I was being asked to order lunch and clean the conference room for the salespeople who were coming in. And I was like, I'm your accountant. I'm not your office manager. Why am I being asked to do this? And she said, because you're a woman, get used to it and go clean the conference room because that meeting is starting soon. And I was so blown away with this VP woman who was completely comfortable saying that and with the situation. And I now, when you're saying I'm your mentor, like I want to teach women to approach the conversation differently. Call it out, show that it's happening, make sure that you are documenting that it's happening. If you're going to change my title and my role, make sure that my title and my pay change along with that. So
Right.
It's really having those more meaningful conversations that's the point of WIGI. So it's our resources and it's our community that we're bringing together. So I'm really excited to be here today because I think Cheat Codes is one of the coolest resources. It's just the opportunity to kind of learn from leaders in the industry right now and just kind of have that access and opportunity to have those conversations that maybe you don't really know how to start.
I appreciate that. I just posted about this on LinkedIn. I really feel that Cheat Codes is kind of like my love letter to the industry and especially women in games. And it's just a love letter that's real and raw and open, but also I'm hoping to be inspiring. And I know that having you on the show in this moment is really helping me reach that goal. So thank you.
I think you're so inspiring. I love the way that you approach the conversation. So absolutely, let's get to it.
So what was the goal in creating WIGI? And not only creating it, how does it differ from where it is now, or is it along the same lines?
So Women in Games International was founded at GDC in 2005. So in 2003, there was a group of women that were asked to come and do a panel about being a woman in the games industry, navigating their career in the games industry. What does that mean? What does that look like? And at the time, women were really being omitted from history because they weren't being given the credit and recognition that they were due and that they deserved. And so, the conversation was a lot of, this isn't great. And a lot of people listening going, yeah, we agree. And GTC was like, this was one of the most, successful panels. Can you come back and do it again in 2004? In 2005, when we got together again to have the same conversation about how it sucks, three women went, what are we doing? We're not making any change. We're not driving any difference. We're just kind of sitting around and complaining at this point. The conversation became, how do we actually move things forward? How do we use this momentum? How do we use these learnings to kind of tell everybody's story and pull together in a way that drives change? And so Women in Games International was founded, and it was a play on bringing together all the WIG, SIGs, and ERGs on an international basis. So WIG, SIG being a Women in Games social interest group, ERG being an employee resource group, and just all of the women who are, in the space, who want to see a change and who want to be part of that change coming together. So we're really founded on community and resources. So it was building a community so that you have somebody to reach out to. If you're applying for a job, reach out to your network and ask for support, kind of getting that salary negotiation or even just getting in front of the right people, finding the community that when something bad does happen, who do you reach out to? Who do you talk to? How do you know how to kind of approach that situation? And then resources. It doesn't necessarily have to be our resource. We just want to amplify all of the resources that are available. Did you know there's a global game jam? Did you know that there's access to mental health? Did you mental health support? Did you know that there's all of these different things available, and kind of having one grouping of, here's all of the resources available to you as you continue to navigate your career in the industry. And so that was sort of the biggest goal. I would say the way that we've changed is, I came from a nonprofit background of programmatizing things. And so I really changed from, we had 2 networking events a year, one at GDC and one at E3, to we are running over 90 programs a year, focused on mentorship, focused on having conversations, focused on creating the opportunity and the access to kind of dig deeper into these different topics. I had a really great mentor who said to me, one of the biggest issues that you should really watch for is when, men approach a conversation, people who are comfortable in their environment approach a conversation, they'll have a conversation about something positive and something that benefits them. And when people who are uncomfortable approach a conversation, or people who feel like they constantly need to prove themselves approach a conversation, they'll talk about how hard things are and what they're doing to improve the thing that's not going great. And so we want to create more conversations for women that are more focused on moving things forward, that are more focused on things that will benefit you, that are more focused on the next step rather than continuing to talk about the last step or continuing to kind of talk about how hard something is. So we want to find new ways to help pivot. How do you introduce yourself? Introducing yourself in an elevator pitch type of mentality, instead of, let me tell you why I belong here and why you should be talking to me and why I'm not wasting your time by introducing myself. We want to have those other conversations that's like, this is me and you're welcome for introducing myself. Now let's talk about the thing that we want to talk about. So I would say it's more international, because it's not just people coming in internationally to GDC. We are more focused on reaching out to people internationally, and we definitely have a lot more programmatized material on ways that we can kind of get people to conferences, to speak, to be part of the networking, and to get that mentorship access.
I always believe that security is what fosters independence. Security is what fosters growth. And having the space to say, I know that sucks, but it sucked for me, but it doesn't have to suck for you. So here are the things that I learned the hard way over my 20 years of experience, over my 15, 30 years, over my wealth of experience. This is what worked for me, to kind of give someone that cheat code to get into where they really want to go. So that the why I deserve to be here is the internal dialogue now, and not necessarily what you are doing when you're out in the industry. Now it's a showcase of your talent. Now it's a showcase of your experience, and it's a showcase of what you have to offer. So I think that's something that WIGI does really brilliantly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I don't know if you've ever watched Mythic Quest. It was one of my favorite shows. I cried for Carol in HR. You tell me, Carol. There's one scene where one of the characters is driving with the CEO and co-founder of the company, And he's like, this is literally your opportunity to pitch to me. This is literally your opportunity. It's just me and you in this one space. You have something you want to say it. And the only thing she could think about was complaining about stuff that was hard. And it was just like, if you instead said, hey, here's a situation I see, here's a potential solution to the situation, let's have a conversation. But it's teaching people, especially underrepresented and underserved communities, it's okay to have those conversations. It's okay to have an idea that the CEO hasn't thought of. That's kind of what they want you to do. It's not, telling them how to do their job. It's saying, hey, here's a situation I see because this is where I'm sitting. You might not see it because you're sitting over there, but here's how I think we can approach it and we can kind of resolve it together. And then it becomes a really powerful tool, and using that conversation as that next step or that career boost even, rather than just like, hey, this thing is harder, it sucks. Like, okay, there's lots of things that suck, but like, let's kind of figure out the way to sort of move forward together. So I think that's the more of the conversations I want to be having, and just finding ways to encourage more people to have those conversations and to be, on the end of where they're kind of initiating those conversations in a very confident way to propel themselves on their own.
So looking back over the last 20 years, what would you say that is WIGI's most significant accomplishment or accomplishments in women in game?
I would say we really built our community. We were small when we started. We kind of tried to pull people together. There are lots of women in games groups out there, lots of them doing amazing things. But ours specifically has grown to over 50,000 people worldwide. We have a very small team, as you know, of mostly volunteers who are just like, we want to see this change, so we're going to be part of it. I think our biggest accomplishment was proving people wrong. And I feel like that sounds negative, but it's the most positive thing that I can think of is that, people said to me, you're never going to be able to make this work. It's never going to be something that people support on an ongoing and regular basis. Haha, you're wrong. So we're in a really great space where we have so many, everybody from AAA to indie studios reaching out and supporting us. Every time we have a mentorship program, we have too many applications to approve, which is it's a wonderful, sad thing that we have. Most of our mentorship programs end up being 100 people on a program just because there's so many people that I'm like, I can't turn them away. Our Get in the Game program, our last Get in the Game program, where we bring people who otherwise couldn't afford it to a games industry conference. We pay for the flight, the hotel, a food per diem. We pay for them to get into the conference. We make sure that there's no financial barrier to entry. And we also set up mentorship sessions. So every day we have at least one mentorship session based on the track. So if it's GDC, if you're trying to get a job, maybe it's having a conversation about someone in their career journey, what they did, how they kind of approached theirs. Maybe it's a founder and then talking about how they founded their studio after all of this experience or all these different things in their career journey. If it's somebody trying to find funding, we make sure that you're speaking to investors, you're speaking to people who can help you with your pitch, so people who can help you with your pitch deck. We want to make sure that we're getting the right resources in front of the right people. And so our Get in the Game program, our last one, we had over 1,400 people apply to be a mentee on the program, which felt really powerful. People see the difference. They see the impact and they see that it's making that change. We teach you how to introduce yourself in 3 sentences or less, and then start the conversation. So the conversation isn't about completely who you are. It's here's who I am, but then I'm going to talk to you about this. And so how do you build that network? How do you actually cultivate those relationships? And I used to think it was just having a whole bunch of LinkedIn profiles connected with you. It's not. And then when I was out of a job, I didn't know who to reach out to. So now it's having those conversations, knowing how to build that network, knowing how to cultivate those relationships and really make it an actionable network that is there to support you and that you are there supporting other people. Our Get in the Game program is one of my favorite programs. And it's a 90% success rate where 90% of all of our mentees receive a job offer within 2 weeks of the program's closed. Our last GDC program, we brought 12 different people to GDC and we had over half of them had job offers before we left the program. Wow. So it's finding ways to activate people, to show them and build that confidence that they can do the thing and that maybe they were creating their own glass ceiling. And maybe we just need to burst through their glass ceiling and kind of figure out the next steps. So I think there's a lot of amazing programs that we are currently running and that people see value in. And that's sort of the focus on, we're never done. We're always trying to build and to grow. What is something that you see that I maybe didn't see that we could create a program or a conversation around? What is an issue that you're having that we could kind of create a mentorship or an opportunity to show representation around. We have people constantly reaching out saying, hey, we want to run a conference. We need more female speakers. Great. I don't want to talk about being a woman in the games industry anymore. The conversation's over. Yeah, it got hard. Okay, move on. Let me talk to you about monetization. Let me talk to you about financial strategy, setting up, all of your finances and your processes. And let me talk to you about speaking to an investor. Let me talk to you about the things that I know. Let me have someone else speak to AI and their incredible experience within AI and how they're an AI expert who happens to be a woman. Let's have a conversation about running a studio and being a profitable studio in this day and age. She happens to be a woman. Let's have a conversation instead of about being a woman. Let's have a woman lead the conversation. And I think that's our biggest approach, that we are really trying to just make sure that we're changing those conversations away from tell me how hard it is to talk to me about the thing that you know. And let's all be amazed at all the stuff that she happens to know. We are also women, femme-identifying, and non-binary. So it's not just female representation, but it's truly more just underserved and underrepresented representation, showing the next person that they can do it because this other person already did it and maybe they look just like you. And I know that was a big factor for me growing up in a trailer court in the middle of a cornfield in Illinois. I didn't think I had much of career growth opportunities until I saw somebody else who looked like me, and who came from a very, poverty background, say, you walk into a boardroom and just completely own it. And so it was seeing someone who had kind of a similar trajectory, who was breaking her own glass ceiling and just doing nothing because of, maybe in spite of, that potential barrier to entry. So that to me made me realize that I was the only thing standing in my own way. And so how do I move beyond that? And that's the biggest goal, is just to empower everybody to take a seat at the table and to have the right conversations.
I think one of the hardest lessons for me to learn is that someone told me directly that you are not, I'm being abusing hyperbole, but they said, you're not going to find a job here by just sitting behind your desk and sending out a million resumes. And I know that they meant the anecdote, you will find some jobs, but the point was I needed to put myself out there and to find people who looked like me and who were like me, who could understand me, because a resume is a paper. It doesn't necessarily tell my story, but meeting someone and chatting face to face, and also having someone look at you and see themselves reflected in you, even though they're at what you perceive as a higher level, but when they see themselves reflected in you, they feel like they want to make sure you don't have the same struggles that they did. And it's really true with WIGI, especially because there's such a wealth of people who volunteer their time here. It is not one type of person, that you don't have to revamp your whole personality into some sort of LinkedIn superstar to find your place in this industry. And I think that's something that WIGI does really well with the mentorship program and with the Get in the Game program. It's, yeah, I know you're shy. You have you have a small voice and you're shy. This is so-and-so. She's also shy. And she's the CEO of, and those are the connections that are being made at these events that really help people say, okay, let me find the things about myself that shine without trying to morph into someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. We say a lot of times, like, somebody who looks like me, and I don't necessarily mean your skin color. I don't necessarily mean, your eye color. Like that's not my goal. It's not a height reference. It's somebody like me who reminds me of me. Maybe they have a really dry sense of humor. They're incredibly awkward. When they get nervous, they stutter. Like, that's somebody that I'm like, we're the same person. Look at you and look at me. And it's creating that representation, and it's not just creating representation for the next person, but it's also creating representation for yourself. It's that brand identity, that personal brand, and that people don't really remember or think about. And so, when we're talking about posting on LinkedIn, which is one of the hardest things, especially from underrepresented and underserved communities, people forget that it's a good thing. And I know a lot of it is where you come from and your upbringing and the voices around you and the crowd that you've surrounded yourself with. And I remember getting my master's degree and having a family member say to me, wow, how do you wear hats with such a big head? Because I said I was proud that I got my master's degree. And so I stopped posting because I didn't want people to think that I was being this type of person who was always just having myself on the back. But But then I also stopped contributing my thoughts and my ideas. And I stopped contributing, opportunities that I thought people could have or that they might be interested in. I stopped contributing silly jokes. I stopped taking up space on my social platforms because I didn't want to be perceived in a specific way. And because of that, you don't know everything I've accomplished. You don't know all those panels I was speaking on. You don't know all the opportunities I have been, kind of taking advantage of it. So it made me kind of take that step back and realize it. When we had our mentorship program for women trying to get from mid-manager to VP and C-suite roles, I had to individually reach out to all of these women in C-suite roles who have been in those roles for years and say, please, will you come be a mentor? And they're like, I've only been here for 5 years. I don't know if I can really offer anything to people. I don't know if I can really be of value or service. And well, you said C-suite, I'm only VP. And it's like, yeah, but you report to the CEO. That's what we're trying to get. We're trying to get people up that ladder. And it was very awakening, I guess. It was something that I kind of looked at and just, I said to myself, I need to take up more space to show other women that they should be taking up more space, because we need to find ways to just amplify our voices, which then helps amplify somebody else's voice. So it's not just posting every time you're doing something, but also liking other people's posts, commenting, congratulations, this is amazing. You got in a role. That's incredible. They're lucky to have you. Like that's a really great milestone for you right now, and kind of helping amplify that it's a positive conversation and a good thing to attach yourself to success, attach your name to success and show people what it is that you are doing. And then maybe that inspires the next person to apply for the job that they didn't think they were completely qualified for, or that they knew they were 100% qualified for, but they were too scared because the title and pay felt too big for what they told themselves they could achieve in their lifetime.
Speaking of achievements, WIGI has a $5 million fundraising campaign for this year, and this is an ambitious goal. So can you elaborate on this program?
Absolutely. Yes. And that is in part due to our incredible board of directors, because even just saying 5 million out loud, I was like, I'm not comfortable. And it took me a minute to get comfortable to say it, but $5 million will set us up for the next 15 years of programming. And so that is our goal. Is a very ambitious goal. Are well on our way to the first million right now. So we are very excited to kind of be able to start announcing and launching things in 2025 for our 20-year anniversary. Basically, we want to set up an endowment fund and a scholarship fund. And so all of our programs are free to access. We want to be able to give out scholarships to be able to show people what it is that we're doing and we're working on. We also have a really powerful No Woman, No Panel initiative where we're sending women to conferences to speak. So having those scholarships, having those grants available to be able to share with women so that they can go be that expert speaker at a conference. We are trying to find ways to not only do this to help our programming, but do this to show other women that people are interested in supporting you, that we do want to see this change in the industry. When we did our mentorship program focused on esports, where we were trying to show different pathways into esports beyond just being a pro player, we actually had the most male applicants apply to that, to be speakers and to be mentors on that program. And it really showcased, it's not just women saying we need more representation. It's everyone saying we need more women in this space, in this room, and at this table. And so it's really showcasing that powerful message that we together can drive this change. We can be this difference, and we can do so through specifically, career development programming, technical programming, access to technology. And so raising this 5 million in 2025, the biggest goal really is to just continue to develop and run even more programs. Right now, every time we run a program, we have to get sponsorship. So if we can't get sponsorship, we can't run the program. Last year, we didn't run as many mentorship programs as we wanted to. We're not at as many conferences as we want to be. And so we want to just be able to kind of pivot in a way that we can run the program that's the most impactful instead of the most appealing to an investor. And so we're trying to really showcase that through this endowment, really making sure that we are investing in ourselves, investing in the community, investing in women in the games industry. And so we're asking people to invest in us. So we do have a few different ways people can participate. We do have sponsorship opportunities for people with access to larger funds and budget. We do have a Give Better campaign. So people can donate. You can actually create a team and help your team get donations and raise money and awareness through that campaign. And then we have limited edition swag this year, which we're very excited about. Chelsea Blasco and the team over at Iron Galaxy actually created a 20th anniversary logo specifically for WIGI for 2025, which we are
really cool.
thrilled about, and it's gorgeous. And we are putting together different opportunities to grab swag. So our partnerships, our Parker, who is running our socials, is putting together all of these different ideas, and so there's sweatshirts, there's tie-dye, there's a lot coming up that I'm excited for people to see. And it's really focused again on kind of branding that and literally repping Women in Games International and the fact that you are supporting this and the fact that you are part of this community. And then proceeds come back to WIGI as part of the fundraising campaign. So there's a lot happening in 2025 that we're really excited about. We did just secure sponsorship for our Get in the Game program at GDC. We have the first ever WIGI Leadership Summit at GDC on the Monday of GDC. It's an invite-only event that's really focused on actionable insights and driving change today. What can I implement today to make a change in my community, in my role, and my job, whatever that is. And it's really finding ways to kind of just continue to share and strengthen what it is that we're doing, which is just normalizing women in the industry and creating equal access and opportunities.
We will make sure we put the links for the fundraising campaign and the swag in the show notes. So please make sure that you grab your swag. I know I will. So one question I have are, what are some key areas that WIGI is really going to focus on this year? What key programs?
So our biggest programs that we find, to be the most impactful, the programs where people can actually participate and where they can walk away with something in their hand. We just did our first ever BIPOC job fair. It was a virtual job fair with Black in Gaming and the IGDA Foundation. And it was, I think we had almost 300 people sign up from around the world to just join us, to have their resume reviewed, to be able to speak to a recruiter, to go through their LinkedIn profile. Is my LinkedIn profile set up correctly? We had so many people jump in and say, I want to be part of this, and I'm looking for a job right now. I want advice and I want mentorship. We had a good chunk of people that they haven't applied to a role they knew they were qualified for because they didn't feel confident enough that they would even have their application reviewed. So it's trying to find ways to really encourage people to take that step that they're uncomfortable with, kind of being comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? So our biggest focus is on actionable programming where people can actually walk away with something tangible to drive change and to make an impact. Our Get in the Game program is one of our best programs for that, just teaching you how to introduce yourself, teaching you what that looks like, safe networking, making sure that you're set up for safe networking, having real conversations that aren't just like, you're my hero. Like, that's great. But also, I want to work for you. And so like having those conversations and moving that conversation forward. We also, our mentorship program is one of our most well-received programs. It's an opportunity to join virtually to actually have a mentor in the games industry who is in the role that you want to be in. How did you get there? What does it look like? What does it mean? What are your next steps? What are your goals and ambitions? How can I interpret that into my own goals and ambitions? And having those real, tangible one-on-one conversations, again, it's representation, but it's also just having access to people in that space who you feel a connection with. And then it also builds your network. And then we also have our WIGI programming every Wednesday, which we absolutely love. And we get a lot of interest around. So Cheat Codes podcast, for instance. We also have interview, which is interviewing the interviewer. So actually talking to a hiring manager or recruiter in the games industry, asking them what would make you excited about my application? What would make you throw away my resume? What questions should I be prepared for? How can I best, draft my cover letter? Or do you even like cover letters? Having those conversations with people in the industry who are actually hiring right now, so that you can then put your best foot forward when you apply for one of those roles. Having open world dialogue is a great opportunity for people to jump in and, again, just ask questions to industry experts on LinkedIn Live. Your LinkedIn is connected to your question, which makes it really easy for networking and opportunities. We've seen a lot of interest in just kind of getting people to grow their network and have those meaningful conversations, but also follow up after, which is really powerful. And then power leveling, which is in Discord, which is more of like an office hours, but it's more meant to be like those uncomfortable or difficult conversations where you can just join from Discord and ask specific questions and have meaningful dialogue with somebody in the industry. It's kind of that situation, right? In Mythic Quest, it's that sitting in that car and having that conversation that is, how do I move things forward? Here are my very specific ideas. So we're really focused on programming in general. I think the biggest thing for me is, what do you see that I don't see? What conversations aren't being had right now that we should be having. Specifically this last year, we have seen a lot of what we used to call revenge studios. And so it's, people saying, I'm so tired of the way you're running things. I'm just going to start my own. It's having an opportunity to speak to, if you have your own studio, what do you need to make sure that you have lined up? How do you speak to an investor about funding? What form of funding makes the most sense for your specific studio or initiative? What is it that you're doing differently? How do you kind of have that unique approach that sets you apart from everyone else if there are a ton of other new studios in the same market today? So what does that look like? And what are those conversations? Something else that, we've just never really thought of that we now have a complete program around is how do you build your network when you are in another country? So if you're trying to specifically come to the States to work, how do you build your network? How do you network with people virtually in a way that is meaningful enough and impactful enough that you could kind of qualify yourself to maybe get relocated back over across the pond and secure employment, here before you even leave home. And so it's having conversations around what is your stopping point? What is your barrier? What is the thing that we can talk about and navigate together? Or what is a resource that you need? So we have lawyers on standby. If you have questions that you need just advice on, we have people ready and willing to give advice. Just getting in front of people and making sure that they know that we're here to support them and we're here to find ways to help them move forward, because that's really our biggest goal is your success.
I feel like WIGI makes the gaming industry tangible, because at first it used to feel like a mythical thing so far away from me. And now, from being involved in WIGI, and not just from the programming side, but being involved as if I am a participant in the mentorship program, it makes everything so tangible and right there in front of me. And I think that's a level of access that I don't want anyone to take for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people too say that would be something cool one day, but I don't even know how to start. So how do you start is a really big conversation. Yeah, absolutely. Creating that access and opportunity. And then we have everybody in our Discord. I mean, you want to talk to a C-suite, you want to talk to somebody who is a founder, you want to talk to somebody who's just starting out in community management. I mean, there's so many different people that it's creating that access to just have those conversations all the way from, can you review my portfolio to see if it's any good, to I just got a offer for a VP role. How do I negotiate the salary? And so it's finding ways to just kind of continue the conversation and then show other people that you're having that conversation. Showing somebody that you're at a C-suite level and you're nervous about negotiating your salary is really powerful.
It
and
is.
kind of helps combat your imposter syndrome. Like, whoa, you're nervous about this? Okay. Well, all right, let's talk about it. So it's really great. It's that representation, not just that there's another woman in the room, but that we're all kind of facing different things and we're facing them together. Let me tell you my cheat codes, so you tell me your cheat codes, and then together we can kind of both move forward in a much more tangible way.
So what message do you have for people who are currently aspiring to enter the industry? And when I say that, I know people usually imagine that the person aspiring to enter the industry is just like a fresh out of college, fresh face, Starbucks barista with their that's what we're imagining. But it's such a wide breadth of people. It's people like me who are in their 40s, who are mothers. It's people who are just starting out. It's people who are in other industries and are transferring over. It's such a wide breadth of people. So what would you say to those people who are aspiring to be in this industry?
I feel like we all get in our own way far too often. So you are never too old. You are never too young. If you want to do something, do it. It's a really I would say it's a really welcoming industry.
Yeah.
It's also a really open industry with regards to, if you don't know exactly what you want to do, I would encourage you to join a game jam, which is an opportunity to work with a team to create a game. And that's everything from creating the budget to creating the story, to creating the graphics, to creating the animation, to drawing, there's so many roles that you can take within a game jam. It's not just people who can code. It's not just people who can use Unity or Unreal or Dorian or whichever platform they're using. It's not just one specific type of person who's supposed to be at a game jam. And we have that fear a lot come up. So join a game jam, see what it is. Check out the IGDA website. see what they're offering. There's so many skill building and mentorship opportunities within so many different nonprofits in the game space. There's so many opportunities to join at a low risk entry. And there's so many ways to just listen to conversations, check out our online content, check out our LinkedIn, check out all of these conversations we're having with people to then see where it is that you want to step in. If you already know where you want to step in, you're 10 steps ahead of the game. Finding ways to really get noticed within the industry. It's not just talking about your favorite game. It's not just talking about how you have a tattoo from your favorite game. Like, that's great. That's really fun for networking. But that's not really the best job application. So I would say building your network is a really solid way to get into the industry. Start talking to people. The more people you know, I mean, when we went to a networking event, you and I, and you were like, I'm looking for this specific type of role. Like, that became an offer. That became oh, I need that. Why are you interested in that? And you literally continue to talk about all the things you would want to do within that role. And that made somebody who wasn't actually hiring for that role hire you for that role. Like,
That
that
is
was
true.
a huge opportunity. So it's those networking pieces that people they don't often see until they're part of them. It's not just what names do you know, and when you say hi, do they say hi? It's who do you have the opportunity to have a conversation with in a meaningful way that could help support them and help support you. And so it's finding those connections. So really networking with people, show up to the networking event. Even if you don't have a ticket to GDC, if you can get to GDC, go to the networking outside of GDC. There's so many things that happen outside of the actual conferences. Games for Change in New York. There's GDC in San Francisco, Gamescom in Germany. There's tons of things in the UK. I mean, there's so many opportunities to get to the games industry and network within the games industry without actually needing to have a pay-to-play kind of ticket. There's also so many virtual opportunities as well. So play your favorite game, talk about your favorite game, talk about it in a way that you are becoming somebody who is helpful and helping to kind of transform it into something bigger and better. There's a lot of people that have kind of secured roles because they started talking about ideas that they had for the game in a way that was supporting the game and supporting the way that the game was played or made or becoming more accessible. So where are you contributing? What is your contribution to the industry? And it's something that a lot of people are kind of nervous to have opinions on. Join a Discord, start having conversations, find ways to really kind of insert yourself into the industry and then take up space. We constantly tell people, please take up your space on the internet and post on your LinkedIn. Did you get that certification? Tell me, because otherwise I don't know. When I hire people, I go through their LinkedIn profile. I want to see what's important to you. What are you posting about? What are you liking? What do you think is something that's a good thing to kind of talk about within your professional network? And so it's really having those conversations, finding ways to really get yourself noticed, and then apply for the job. Please just apply for the job.
Yes.
And there's so much opportunities, just apply for the job. Worst case scenario, they're like, wow, this person is not all qualified. Okay, fine. They throw your resume away. Whatever.
Exactly. I've applied to be CEO of Netflix, I don't know how many times.
It's
So they're
incredible.
sick of me.
Or they're about to hire you. You never know.
You
You
never know.
never know. But I know, in my role as a hiring manager, I have looked at someone's resume and been like, whoa, this person has serious one for, we were hiring a community manager and somebody applied who had years of experience with newsletters. I needed somebody who could do newsletters. You can also do community management. I just kind of got 2 hires. We actually ended up hiring them to do newsletters and hired somebody else to be community manager.
Yeah.
Well, there's so many opportunities that maybe getting your resume in front of the right person is all you have to do to kind of open a door for yourself that you didn't even know was closed. So please apply for the job. That's what I would say.
Thank you so much for being on Cheat Codes, for being the first guest of 2025. I just want to name our prayers are going out to everyone in California who's dealing with this awful tragedy right now, and it's a little scary, and the industry is scary, and a lot of things are really scary, and the time keeps ticking, and we keep moving forward, and we're here to support each other. Please make sure to visit us at getwiggy.com You can join our Discord. There's community there. If you are struggling, if you are having an issue right now with finding a job, finding housing, and you need any assistance, please reach out to us through this community so that we can circle around you. Thank you so much, Joanie. I really appreciate you being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. No, this is absolutely incredible. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Take care, and we will talk soon. Bye.